Here's a quick unauthorized glance at the LESS, or Large-Scale Scrum, complete picture. Principles at the heart of LESS were distilled last, but we'll peek at them first. These 10 principles in the third LESS book were discovered empirically, meaning through experiments. Craig Larming and Bas Vari were previously known for their software development skills, and they're still active programmers. They described about 500 agile experiments in their first 2 scaling books, then they spent a few years distilling their continued experience down to these principles. Let's touch on more with less. We get more responsible teams when we make fewer role distinctions. It's often tempting to create more specialized roles like architect, release train engineer, many variations of middle managers, various types of czars, but creating more roles has the harmful side effect of reducing team responsibility. Scrum and LESS reduce the number of roles instead. Less segregation means more team self-management and a simpler, flexible organization. We're better able to collaborate with each other and the customer with fewer artifacts, handoffs, and fancy tools in the way. We want working products that meet the customer's needs, not intermediate inventory. There's more learning and fun when there's less burdensome process. Big companies tend to turn these knobs the wrong way. There are several ways to learn about the other principles at the heart of LESS. A LESS framework is barely sufficient to kickstart empirical process control and whole product focus. Just like Scrum and Chess, there's a minimal set of simple rules to avoid excess process. The smaller LESS framework is for 2 through about 8 teams, so 50 people, and less huge is for 8 or more teams and sometimes thousands of people on enormous products. All LESS teams try to develop one integrated shippable product every sprint. Large-scale Scrum is Scrum, not Scrum underneath layers of conventional management. Again, a LESS framework is barely sufficient to kickstart empirical process control and whole product focus. Teams focus on the actual customer. True agility is a difficult path for most companies with many problems and setbacks, so the third book, the one you should read first, introduces guides. Guides are strong recommendations and tips that are almost always useful but aren't rules. Example guide topics are how to get started when you've got less than 8 teams versus more than 8 teams, what kinds of setbacks you can expect, specifically how to do multi-team backlog refinements, how to split requirements that seem too big for one sprint, etc. LESS started with experiments in Scrum and Agility, eventually leading to everything else we've discussed. The first 2 LESS books are quite thick and they describe hundreds of experiments, some of which will be useful in your context and some which won't. The third book has guides, framework, rules, and principles, so read that first. I'm MJ, Michael James, at the Seattle Scrum Company. Craig and Bas didn't actually authorize this video, and I'm expecting them to argue with its contents. Here's their logo anyway.